And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to another exciting, another invigorating, another let's keep it going for 5 more games edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Ohio State. Last night, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to beat Ohio State at home 86-70, improving the record of IU to 15-6 on the season. Where's that put us in Big Ten? Sorry, I didn't have that up. That puts us at 6-4 in the Big Ten, kind of sitting at an interesting tied space with, I think, Illinois and another team. We get the top spot in that because of our record with those guys. But anyways, trending up in a way that we really want to see this season and this Big Ten season getting going. And what an interesting and fun game that was last night too, though, for the Hoosiers. Jalen with just a monstrous start to the game, hitting threes with ease and just getting whatever shots he wanted to, and just quite the game, quite a beautiful game to see. I was at one of my oldest daughter's birthday parties, and I kind of lost track of time and didn't really see that the game had started. Was hoping to get home in time to watch the game live, but out of just reflex, we all have those reflexes as to when we pull our phone out, there's an app that will open up or everything. But on game days, for me, that's Twitter. I'll always go on Twitter, see what new reports are and everything like that. Lost track of time, didn't realize the game was going on, so I already spoiled the game for me. So I just kind of kept watching along and did get that little streak at the end spoiled for me, where that was going to develop and at what time that was going to hit. And watching it, knowing that it was going to happen, the telecast put an interesting stat up right before that happened. Right before we go on that streak, Indiana was shooting 38% from the field. Then we go on that run, and they end the half at 49% from the field with a 16-point lead. So amazing what that little streak at the end, with about 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe left in the first half, can do for IU and the numbers. Second half, Trace Jackson-Davis kind of really got going, and we kind of kept Ohio State at arm's length the rest of the game, only allowing it to get as close to about 11 early on in the beginning of that second half, and then we kind of spread it out to 15 and just kind of stays at that 15 for the rest of the game. Just an exciting game overall, a game that we needed to have for this team, and just continued to do great things and what we want to see for this team. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf, here with you always. Thanks for being here with us. Martha the Mop Lady with me as well. Martha, your opening thoughts on this game?
Another really solid performance. You mentioned just getting the report that Jordan wasn't going to play shortly before the game. It's one of those situations where you're wondering how we're going to respond to, and obviously Jordan, his contributions have been, he's had some great games. He's had some games where he struggled, but still you're missing one of your guys. You're missing one of your brothers, and you're wondering how this team's going to respond to that, to more change, to more adversity. And when the game started, it looked like it was going to be a really competitive game. I mean, keep in mind it was tied at 29 apiece with about 5.5 minutes left in the first half. So it looked kind of really back and forth. We were out of the gate a little slow. We weren't shooting the ball, to your point, all that well. But to see us kind of break through and finish the half, Ohio State not scoring a point from that 5.5 minute mark, us gaining that 15 point lead, and second half, we just, we did what we needed to do, right? We kept them, they were scoring points. Our defense, I thought, wasn't, it's not as good as it's been. It was good enough, and it was good enough to keep them, at that distance. So all in all, I thought start to finish, and we saw some contributions from guys that we haven't seen contributions from, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But a lot of good things to come out of this, and it's good trends at this point, right? We're now talking about 4 or 5 wins in a row, where some of these things you're starting to see them become a trend rather than, oh man, this is just an outlier game. Can we put 2 back-to-back games together? So I think that's the encouraging thing is as we go into a game where, we travel to we go into a week, where we travel to a pretty hot Maryland squad, and then at home against our rival Purdue. So it's a good time to be playing well.
Yes, very much is. And you mentioned Jordan there. Yes, Jordan was in his street clothes and had a bit of a walking boot on, which was tough to see and everything. Could be partially explaining the lulls we've had from him of recent. Maybe there's been something nagging him that we were unaware of, but it allowed for some interesting substitutions and some interesting guys getting a little bit more of a run, and kind of affected a position that we didn't expect to see. A lot of people I saw tweeting saying Caleb Banks was in there a lot more because we were missing Jordan and everything, but Banks was playing at the 3 for the most part when he got in there, so that wasn't necessarily for that. But since I mentioned him, let's go ahead and maybe talk about Banks. Banks getting an extended run in this. We haven't really seen him play very many minutes or much even at all for quite a long time. I'd have to go back to see when he did, but he got 12 minutes in this game, 15 points. Oh, not 15, excuse me. Well, I'm getting my stats up. 5 points, yep. And ended up with just one of those games that he's just one of those guys that's just aggressive out there. He just kind of a workman kind of player, just puts on his hat and just goes to work. Got to the line 2 times, and that kind of shows that as well. His aggression on the offensive board and to get up there, just liked what I saw from him. What did you think of Banks?
Yeah, I think I, along with everybody else, was really surprised to see, when it showed up that he was in the game, for a couple of reasons. One, I was surprised that he entered over CJ Gunn. You usually saw CJ Gunn as kind of the first young guy, freshman, if you will, outside of the two that generally play, come off the bench. And Caleb's minutes have been, pretty slim since the early season in the game. So I was surprised, but it eventually and quickly turned into a pleasant surprise, right? I mean, Ohio State, and I kind of get it when you think about it. Ohio State's pretty big, pretty physical, pretty thick. They've got long, athletic guys, and I think Caleb, when you compare him to CJ Gunn, he gives you a better body against a team like that. So I certainly understand that, and I think you hear it's cliche, right? It's the next man up mentality. But when you lose a guy like Jordan, who's going to step into that spot and provide, those minutes, that athleticism off the bench? And it was Caleb's time. And it's encouraging to see that on a couple fronts. One, we've seen the unsteady play that we've gotten from guys like, Tamar, and at times, while Jordan's certainly kind of turned a corner, he's been known to have some streak in him as well. So it gives you another option, right? If he can come in and play against like that, against a team like Ohio State, who is athletic like that, it gives you another option off your bench. But, he mentioned it after the game. It was a situation where it's been really hard for him, right? And, hopefully this gives him some confidence, because when you look at what we lose at the end of the season, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a contributor moving forward. And, the college basketball of today, you've always got options. I need it now. So to give a guy like him some minutes, some confidence, I think it bodes well for where we're going.
Yeah, and someone even posted on Twitter talking about him, saying that reminds him of how we kind of first looked at Jordan Geronimo, just excited about the ceiling and the possibilities that may come from this player as he continues to move along. And again, he's one of those players for IU that we're not going to see exit away from this squad early, but is going to be with us for a long time to just kind of build on and just kind of be one of those players that just does things for us and continues to grow each year that he's on the team. 2 more freshmen, obviously, that we need to talk about in this game doing really well. Next, obviously, let's get the best one out of the way. Jalen Hood-Schifino finishing with 20 points in the first half, 24 on the game. Another stat that's just amazing to look at on his is just 1 turnover in the game. And I think the real big storyline, obviously, is all that 3-point shooting he did. Ends 6 for 9 from the field for 3-pointers. If he can continue to make shots like that for IU, it's danger time for IU's opponents. I mean, if he can facilitate like he can and get shots like that. And I think in this game, what felt different about it, besides 1 or 2, they didn't feel forced. A lot of his shots, especially in the first half, they weren't forced. He wasn't trying to shoot it too early. It was in the flow of the game. It was what he needed to do. He let the game come to him. We say that very often about a lot of different players on this team, but that was the case for Jalen in this, where he wasn't forcing the issue. What were your thoughts on Jalen's fantastic game?
It reminded me him getting that hot from 3-point range. It reminded me of days of old of Jordan Halls and when you see those guys in big moments in Assembly Hall get really, really hot from three, and it just you knew when you got a clean look that there's a good chance it's going down. Just feeding off the crowd and just the momentum involved with it. It just feels like we haven't seen something like that from an IU guy in a while. So that was, and we've talked a lot about our struggles from three. So just to see, a young kid have that type of performance, I thought it was awesome. And really, when you look at the game, it was really the difference. When you look at Ohio's struggles from three, and when you look at what we were able to accomplish from three, it looks a little skewed because of that big run we had at the second half, and we're up by 15, and the second half was just kind of status quo, keeping them at arm's length. But you look at his performance from 3-point range, it arguably can be the difference in the game, right? Because Ohio State really didn't have a problem scoring, especially down low. It felt like when they got downhill and got into the hole, they were getting a lot of dunks and a lot of action by the hoop. So for Jalen to step up, and he's a guy that's been pretty streaky as well. He's been an offensive threat most of the season, but sometimes his outside shot has struggled. So it's encouraging to see him, just like the team. It's encouraging to see him get hot at the right time.
Yep, Sensabaugh for Ohio State was definitely the troublemaker for us. IU struggled to kind of guard him. Miller Kopp was on him during the second half. That's kind of when they got it as close as they did, was kind of off the back of Sensabaugh cutting up Miller Kopp. And again, he's a tough matchup. He's a tall guy. He's big. He's physical. He's smart. He's fast. So he's just a good all-around player, and that's just a matchup nightmare. You put Miller Kopp on, and he gets beat off the dribble. They tried to put Race on to nullify some of the size, and he just kind of used his speed on him. And I think they had Trey on him for a while too, and Trey did a little bit better of a job because he's got the speed and a little bit of the physicality to keep up with him. But definitely kind of kept that team afloat with his play. The other fantastic thing to see out of this game, and the last freshman to close out to talk about, was Malik Renew. And he had a 15-point game. He finished with 8 rebounds, just too shy of over a double-double. Just the game has slowed down a little bit for him. He hit a 3-pointer even. That was interesting to see as well. It slowed down for him and everything. I think the one criticism I would possibly say about his game is that he gets a little bit of blinders occasionally when he gets the ball down on the post. It's just kind of like, I've got the ball now. I've got to go get a basket. Would like him to get his head up a little bit more when he's underneath. And I mean, he's got a great tutor over him, and Trace Jackson Davis, who is fantastic about that and has been even better of recent, of keeping his head up and passing out of the block with purpose. But great game for him. Something that's great to see, especially when the next guy we'll talk about will be Race, but Race was struggling. Just great to see Malik get going. Your thoughts on Malik?
Yeah, and you've really seen him, his season, obviously, when we look back upon it, how well he played early and then his struggles, you've really seen him get back over that, not to sound like Coach Woodson, but get back over that hump, right? It's, and it wasn't unexpected, anytime a freshman gets into Big Ten play, especially a big physical guy like Malik, it's going to be somewhat of a struggle, right? It's not too many times that freshmen, big guys, they've got to be special to come in and make an instant impact and not go through a season with some struggles. But to see him kind of figure it out, right? And he's playing with such confidence, especially as we're trying to get Race back. And clearly he's still, Race is contributing. And I thought he looked even better than he did against Minnesota yesterday. He's starting to get some stamina back, but still, it makes it all that much more important that we've got another option on the post, and Malik has provided that. He just looks he looks so confident down there now, and I feel like when he touches the ball with his back to the basket a couple feet out, that regardless of who's defending him, he's got a really, really great chance to finish. And his field goal percentage speaks to that. And for him to provide that type of performance in 23 minutes of play, you look at Maryland, they've got some decent guys on the post, and then Purdue, we know what they've got down low. We're going to need him. So to see him have this confidence at this time, I think, it's exciting for us moving forward.
Yep. And Trace Jackson Davis, kind of an interesting first half for him. Didn't really see anything, obviously, that stood out to him, but he got going towards the end. Just 8 points in the first half, 10 in the second. Very interesting to see his field goals, 4 for 10 in the first, which kind of shows his struggles, and then 4 for 8 in the second. But he gets to the line in the second half, makes both free throws. That was great to see. Finishes with 10 rebounds, another double-double for him. And when you kind of break out those rebounds, eight of them in the first half, 2 in the second. So took care of things on the board in the first half. Something that I was thinking during the game watching his, and one of the commentators mentioned it, which is I was kind of bummed out because he's, to me, kind of stole my thunder to talk about this. But one thing that still amazes me out of Trace is when he catches the ball and he just stands there for a moment before he makes his move, before he decides what he's going to do, and it just has it in his left hand, just palming it there. I mean, the swagger that allows to just stand there and be like, yeah, I'm just holding this softball in my hand. This thing's nothing. I'm gonna throw it to my guy over there. He's gonna hit a 3, or I'm gonna bounce it a couple times on the floor, and then I'm gonna put it through that ring right in your face. Just the confidence level to stand there palming the ball. I love that. There's so much swagger to that. Talk about Trace. What did you think of his game?
It's funny that when we talk about Trace's performance, it's just 8 points in the first half and just 10 points in the second half for 18 points, and we all do it, right? Because it's we've come to expect a specific performance from Trace, and when it's not that 25 or 30 points, you're like, yeah, he had kind of an off game with 18 points, and he had a couple misses close to the basket, specifically early in the game that were halfway down. I mean, he easily could have had 25 points, I think. And he had some misses that he normally connects on down low, but he also had some makes where they were no doubters, whether they were dunks or he took it right at somebody with his back to the basket. So this, to me, this was a pretty standard Trace performance, solid, dominant, I think, in some cases. Nothing to be concerned about because he didn't put up his normal scoring performance. But, he's a guy that I think knew Jalen was feeling it. And, I remember one of his misses, I think, was the rebound that Caleb Banks had for the and one, another one that he generally connects on. So still, I think he's continuing to hit his stride at the right time. He's still, I don't think this is a step back in any way, shape, or form. I think, it's just not the 30 that he's been putting up, right? But when you think about the threes that Jalen made, I think we'll all gladly accept that. So all in all, really, really strong performance from Trace.
Yep. And Race Thompson, we've got him back in there. He's getting a little bit more extended run. Continues to do the things that Race does, just the hustle plays and everything. The only thing I would say is that his offense, it just feels like it's just a slight click from being back under his feet the right way. The shots that he puts up aren't far from going down. They rattle around a little bit, just hit the front end of the iron and everything. They're in line. They've got a great line on them. Just that touch is not quite back for him the way it needs to be. It could be the brace that he's on, throwing his extension off, the bend of his knee and everything. But it'll come. It'll come with him. I'm not too concerned, obviously. And when you have Malik producing like he has, it's not a concern for the team overall. Anything you need to say about Race in those regards?
No, I think that just it's again. I mentioned it the other day, earlier this week after the Minnesota game when he after his performance against Minnesota. I think a lot of us expected to get Race back in February. And I think specifically me, I was surprised that he was able to come back. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad he has. But for me, this is just him. We talked about it then, right? He had a knee injury, and when you have a knee injury, you think about all the performance that all the stamina you build up over the off season and then into the season. A lot of that goes away, right? Because you're off that leg. You're losing a step. You're getting out of shape a little bit. So it's going to take a little bit for him to get back to being the race that we've come to know and expect. And he still put up 21 minutes and was able to score 5 points. And I noticed his presence a little bit more. Yeah, he's struggling from the field a little bit, but again, I don't read too much into that. Because as you think about us, what our season looks like down the stretch, we're going to need Race Thompson. We're going to need his leadership. We're going to need his physical toughness, everything that, he's our glue guy. We're going to need that race. So for me, this is just an opportunity for him to get back into, figure out the game speed, get back into shape a little bit. And I think with each game that passes, we'll see a better and better race.
I like what you said there. Noticed his presence, and that's a good way to kind of sum up Race overall. Just kind of that worker that just kind of contributes to off the stat play. You just kind of notice his presence. He's a nuisance. He's doing some things here and there that you need. The rest of the guards for Indiana finished with 17 points, meaning Miller Kopp, Trey Galloway, and Tamar Bates. Nothing very overwhelming with them in this game. 3 for 9 from the field for them overall. Did a good job on their men on the defensive end and everything like that. But obviously points and scoring was kind of handled by other guys. Nothing really to complain about or nothing really to shout out as far as high compliments to say per se about those guys. But anything you want to say about those three?
No, I think you're spot on, right? I think that there were moments for each of them. And, I think that they contributed the way they needed to contribute. I think that for me, when you mentioned the rest of the guards, I kind of want to, and I apologize if you're going to get to this, but I kind of want to speak about what kind of we saw before the game. And that was Xavier Johnson out shooting without a boot. And I see that Howie mentioned in the chat, and I've seen it too, our on-ball defense, right? I think that at times it either looks like we're over-helping a little bit, which puts us out of position and makes us appear a step slow, and I think we're figuring it out, right? You think about how bad it looked against Penn State. So I think it's a work in progress, but when you think about X and potentially him coming back at some point in February and getting his legs under him, and you start talking about our perimeter defense, I think to me that bodes well for us going down the stretch. So I was really, really encouraged by the fact that he was out without a boot. I think some people were like, oh, he's going to play. I'm like, that doesn't seem realistic. This is the first time we've seen him without a boot. I don't know that it makes sense to bring him back against Ohio State, but encouraging nonetheless, right? I mean, if he wasn't on the mend, IU would have never put him. I mean, he could have easily been shooting back in Cook Hall, right? They would have never had him shooting out in Assembly Hall without a boot. So that's really, really encouraging. And I think, it bodes well for the rest of our perimeter guys. And we know what he brings, right? He's a guy that can score 20 points in any given night and one of our defensive leaders. So loved what our guards provided us, but I loved even more that we got to see that before the game.
Yeah, I really think with X being out there shooting around at the beginning, it gets us excited and everything. And you think about what he did. He put out that video too. If you follow him on Twitter, there was a video of him staying in the gym, working out, getting in the pool, doing the treadmill for that and everything. And he's obviously hungry to get back in the game and everything. And you want that hunger, you want that excitement, but you don't want him to force it and go back too early. You don't want him lying to the trainer saying he feels good when there's still a little bit of pain. He needs to be honest with himself and honest with everyone around. But it is exciting to see him out there shooting around, and especially, again, as he's been shooting around in a boot, to be without the boot this time. I wouldn't be surprised if at least he is hungry and trying to get back for that Purdue game. Will we see him as early as that? I don't know. That may be too wishful thinking and everything. As far as the overhelping, like you were saying, or how Indiana's controlling the dribbler and everything, we've definitely skated by, and that has been negated. Some of the negatives to that has been negated as far as having a shot blocker like we have underneath. Trace does a lot of cleanup for those types of situations. So that helps big time with what we're doing there. And maybe that's part of the game plan a little bit. Fake like you get beat, and then Trace will get them. Probably not, but we could think about that. Great numbers to kind of look at in this game. IU's shooting was just fantastic in this game. Finished with 1.303 points per possession in this game. And man, if you are an OCD person and like numbers that look really nice and even and everything, IU finishes the game 50% from the field, 50% from three, and so close to keeping that perfect looking percentage is a 70.6% from the field. So shooting overall was just fantastic in this game. Another great number to see is 17 assists from the team in this game. Again, a very unselfish game for IU and everything. Any numbers that stick out for you, Martha?
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive production, right? I think it was 1.32 points per possession, which I think has been their best in big play so far this season. And obviously, I think you contribute that to what we were able to do from the 3-point range. You mentioned 50%, right? And Jalen being 6 for 9, Miller knocked one down, Trey knocked one down. I think Samar knocked one down. Oh, and Malik, Malik had one too. And he looked good doing it. He looked confident. It looked like, right when he released it, he looked like he was confident he was going to make that. I don't know that I want him continuing to shoot a bunch of threes, but it was nice to see him knock one down.
Some Race Thompson PTSD with that too.
Right. Don't get too confident, right? But yeah, I think it's nice that he's got that freedom to, in that situation, I think the game was well in control and he had a good look. And I think coaches certainly gives him a green light there. But, I think that you also look at, I think you mentioned if you didn't, but the way they shot from the line too, 70%, I think we'll take that. Especially after I think against Minnesota, we only scored 10 points from the line. So to walk away, getting 20 points from the line, I think that's obviously a vast improvement. And, I also thought another thing that we haven't mentioned was kind of getting an interesting look, for all the crap they get. It was interesting to get a look behind the scenes of the officiating, interacting with the coaching staff on the broadcast. That was interesting to see kind of the mind games that coaches play with refs and how all that works. It was fun to get a chance to see that. And I'm sure with Coach Woodson, they had to have like the mute button, with his language. I'm sure they had to have that mute button ready at any given moment. I'd love to see that like content that we didn't see, right? I mean, who knows what his interaction looks like. But yeah, all in all, some good stuff that, especially in areas that we've been known to struggle, whether it's not getting to the line or shooting poorly from outside. So those are really the two stats that stick out to me.
Yeah, and DJ Carton was that ref that was being mic'd up during the game, and he was a guy that I actually got to speak to a little bit when I went to the Bahamas last season. There was one morning I was getting coffee, and him and the other refs that were out there, it was Courtney, DJ Carton, and I forgot the third ref that was out there in the Bahamas. But he's a very knowledgeable guy. He's a veteran in Big Ten officiating, and obviously a confident man in that. My interaction with him personally very much came through in what you saw from him in this little look into the referees. A little comical to me with the halftime showing them on the iPad talking through things. That felt a little forced, like we were watching some weird reality TV show and everything. So obviously a little bit of theater from them possibly in that, but just not too much to complain about per se in this game officiating wise. I think they let them play through a lot of contact and stuff in this game. Sure, there were some calls missed and everything, and it was nice to see DJ kind of admit that to a degree. I think there was one play where he kind of, you heard him talk to Trace Jackson Davis and say, I saw that bump and everything, but once you went up with it, my view was blocked on that. Maybe he got you. Sorry, buddy, kind of thing like that. So interesting to see those interactions and everything. And I would like to see it more. And it would be very interesting to possibly get a player on this show at one point, which I'm trying to work on here. Little spoiler alert to that we can talk about that, how that is and everything like that. So yeah, very good game overall. Excited to see what IU was able to do in this game. Before we move on to talking about next game and everything, just go ahead and give me your kind of closing thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think, and Joel mentioned, I saw it over in the chat, how quickly we forget about the Minnesota game, right? I think we all had, as we skated through that performance, and again, I think the perception in that game was Minnesota is already a team that's struggling. They're missing a couple guys. We should come out and have no issue, and we kind of struggled our way through it, right? We found a way, which I think is can't speak enough about that, but it was a really, really ugly game. So to see us come out and, I think people wanted to see us gain a little bit more momentum going into a tough week where we play, we go on the road against a Maryland team that's been playing really well. They've kind of turned their season around. I think they did lose at Michigan, but they played Purdue really close at Purdue, within a possession of beating them. So they're a team that can beat good teams. So we've got to come out and be ready to compete against that game, and then obviously at home against Purdue. So just a really, you can't speak enough about the week in Assembly Hall this week. You look at what the women's team did against Ohio State, and then to turn around and see the men do it. There's just a lot of momentum in that building. The women are back today, so hopefully another big crowd today. And I know Bloomington's going to go out and continue to support that squad. They deserve every minute of that. But just you got to love what you're seeing from this team. I think many of us, including myself, had kind of, I don't want to say written the season off, but there were concerns when we were sitting 1-4 in the Big Ten. And so to see us turn, it's all the credits to the squad. And again, I've said it a couple times. I will gladly eat crow for us to be able to turn around like this. It's tremendous to see. So excited about this week. Another couple opportunities that, if we can get both of these, man, we're going to be in really solid spot moving forward.
Yep. You mentioned there that the women's play today at 2:00. Sadly, that's on BTN Plus. So if you have BTN Plus, that's the way you can catch it. Out of sheer ignorance, I guess, I forgot to cancel my BTN Plus from the beginning of the year. And then when I noticed most of the women's games are on BTN Plus this season, which is a shame, which is shambles. They should be telecasted better for everyone to see. But anyways, happy I kept it because now I'm able to watch those games moving forward. But it is at home, so if you can get there, get there. Joel in the chat says he'll be there. He'll always be there. Go bug him. Go poke the beast. Get him going. It's always fun to get Joel in an argument. Joel, I'm just having fun at you. But yeah, get out there. It's going to be interesting to see how everyone shows up after the big Ohio State game. They're playing Rutgers. It's not as big of an opponent, but exciting to see what kind of energy and momentum they can continue to have for this team and this program. Like you said, Tuesday is the next game IU has at Maryland. Let's hopefully continue this momentum that IU has right now and prove that we can continue to do it on the road. Get a good road win, and then come back and be ready for arguably the last kind of big game that we have circled on this schedule. Take care of Purdue at home. I think that's the only time we see them this season. So very, very interesting stretch moving forward. We have to take care of business, continue to do what we do as a team. But that will do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Thanks for tuning in with us, guys. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate all of you that listen on the podcast to the replays of this show. And we appreciate all you that are here with us, Joel, Howie, and Jennifer. Thanks for you guys in the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video on YouTube. We'll be back again on Wednesday morning for the next game. Very exciting, very great team that we have and things that we have going on. So guys, go out there, have yourself a wonderful day. And as always, let's go Hoosiers.